It is Thanksgiving week. That means the Maui Invitational begins today. On today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast, I'm going to talk about what I'm hoping to see from the Louisville men's basketball team this week in Hawaii and more. So with that being said, let's get right on into the show.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. For those of you who don't know me, I serve as a credential media member for Cardinal Sports Zone. I also do some PA announcing work for the university in various sports. I want to take this time to say thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. And just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast is free on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. We'll talk about a handful of different sports on today's episode of the show, beginning with the men's basketball team, 0-3, looking to try to turn things around in Hawaii in the Maui Invitational this week. I'll tell you what I'm hoping to see from the Cardinals this week. We'll also talk about various members of the Flyville 23 football recruiting class making their way to campus to witness the Cardinals take down number 24 NC State. I'll talk about the significance of that. We'll also discuss the fourth-ranked Louisville volleyball team's sweep over number 7 Pittsburgh in the home finale. We'll begin the episode by discussing the men's basketball team. 0-3, all 3 losses have been by 1 point. Very frustrating, but looking to get some answers or try to turn things around this week. It's not going to be easy because it's a tough slate of possible opponents that they could face in Hawaii over the next couple days. But regardless, there's a couple things that I'm hoping to see. With it being this early in the season, 0-3, obviously not, optimal, something that nobody expected Louisville to lose these 3 games, but regardless, here we are. Now it's a matter of continuing to progress, continuing to grow and learn and develop and get better as a unit, get better individually, so on and so forth. Maybe the expectations of the season have been altered. They've been changed a little. But I still think that maybe the season isn't lost in the sense of there's an opportunity to gain some valuable chemistry, some development, just overall cohesiveness on the court. But there have been some things that kind of have made me frustrated over the first couple games. So what I'm looking to see from the Louisville men's basketball team this week in the Maui Invitational, there's 3 things in particular. Number 1, maximum effort. Number 2, cohesiveness on both ends of the court. And number 3, someone besides Ellis consistently stepping up scoring the basketball. We'll begin with maximum effort. This one should be a given. Over the first 3 games, and I'm not saying that this has been an issue throughout the games all game long, but there's been a handful of times over the first 3 contests to where Louisville is not displaying maximum effort. What I mean by that is obviously getting back on defense. There's been some jogging, getting back on defense, giving up open layups, just overall not playing your hardest. Obviously, that's not the case throughout all of the game. Now, granted, there are some aspects to where, maybe the effort isn't what it should be. Granted, it's not a problem for, the duration of these games, but it's been an issue that has popped its head up every single contest so far. So I think that the main thing, and I hate that I'm having to say this, but it's effort. In the first thing that I'm looking for is the team to play 40 minutes or however long this game is going to be tonight against Arkansas, and the remainder of this game, and even the remainder of this invitational and throughout the rest of the season is maximum effort. If you know that, hey, look, Louisville may not necessarily be the most talented team in the country. Louisville might not necessarily have the most prolific offense. They might not be one of the best defensive teams in the country. That is what it is, right? I mean, it's a rebuilding year. There is going to be a period of time that it's going to be a little rough before it gets better. Kenny Payne has said that in multiple press conferences, but there's no excuse for a lack of effort. I think that that is something that I'm hoping to see consistently through the Maui Invitational is simply the team, just putting forth maximum effort all game long for each of the games in the Maui Invitational, regardless if they win any, regardless if they lose them all, whatever it may be. Look, I think that what I'm hoping to see, of course, I want Louisville to win games. I would love to see them, like Mike Rutherford suggests, be an island team and win the Maui or win a couple of games in this invitational. But I'm trying to, keep realistic expectations. The reality of the situation is this is a tough field. Not only do you take on a top 10 team in Arkansas right out of the gate, you're going to play either Creighton or Texas Tech. Texas Tech is one of the most disciplined teams in the country year in, year out. They're very, very solid defensively, which is a challenge for a team like Louisville that's struggling offensively. They run their offense very well. They might not necessarily be the most talented team in the country, but Texas Tech is a very good team. Creighton, on the other hand, returned a lot from last year's team, and they brought in some solid additions. So, look, Creighton's going to be a tough team. Now, granted, you may play I think it's Cincinnati, where Cincinnati was a team that I think had the lowest odds to win the Invitational, even lower than Louisville. Maybe that third game that you play, you might be able to talk about getting a victory. But look, Louisville lost their first 3 games of the season to mid-major opponents, suggesting that they're going to do a full 180 and win multiple of these games in Maui. I think it's a little bit premature at this point. Is it impossible? Of course it's not, but I think it's improbable. So what I'm looking for is for this team to improve in multiple aspects of the game. Obviously, effort is one of them. Cohesiveness on both ends of the court is what I'm looking for next. What that means offensively is to find more of an identity in the half-court offense. What we've seen through the first 3 games is the team individually taking turns trying to beat their opponent off the dribble, and if it's not there, kicking it out and essentially just repeating that same process until the shot clock is winding down or maybe they get a good shot. That isn't necessarily the best recipe for success because I don't think that the perimeter shooting has been that great to warrant that style of offense. I would like to see more of an identity being found on offense, whether that's utilizing the high pick and roll, trying to utilize more of offense in the paint, which I hope they do. I would like to see Sidney Curry, Brandon Huntley, Hatfield, Jalen Withers, whoever it is in the game, utilize size down low. And I know it's going to take some time to be able to find that offense, the offensive identity, but I would like to see them start that process to look like they're not completely lost on offense and not having to rely on Ellis, really coming in clutch, or the team relying on some late shot clock heroics. So I know it's a sprint, or I know it's a marathon, not a sprint, but I would like to see some adjustments being made. Same thing on defense. I think that there's been too many wide open shots. I would like to see the team be better when it comes to defending the pick and roll, teams moving without the basketball, just being able to guard the movements off the ball. I think that that is an aspect that I'm looking to see improved on. So cohesiveness is an aspect as well. So effort and cohesiveness, just obviously playing to full effort, but also, continuing to build that chemistry up over this week against some tough opposition. And then thirdly, is someone not named Ellis consistently being a scoring threat. Ellis has been fantastic to start the season, leading the Cardinals with 24 points per game, 47% from the field, 37% from 3, 80% from the free throw line, so he's doing it efficiently. And I know that there's 3 players averaging double figures in Mike James, Jalen Withers, and Brandon Huntley Hatfield, but really outside of them, there hasn't necessarily been much scoring help. I think that this is more so directed towards the supporting cast outside of maybe the starting 5 because you're getting very little bench production. Now, granted, Sidney Curry really hasn't been playing well at all, averaging 1.7 points per game through 3 games, averaging 18.3 minutes per game. So he's struggling. I'd like to see him get back on track in the Invitational. Obviously, you would like to see Mike James, Huntley Hatfield, and Jalen Withers continue to score in double figures. But I think I'm more so, looking at guys like J.J. Traynor, Hersey Miller, Sidney Curry, Roosevelt Wheeler, Kamari Lands, starting to pick it up a little bit more in the scoring column and starting to being able to contribute in that way, because I think that Louisville is not necessarily terrible at scoring the basketball because they're averaging 66 points per game, but I do think that they do need some more help in that category. Just some more scoring options outside of Ellis and James Huntley Hatfield and Jalen Withers. So looking for the supporting cast to step it up in the scoring column, also maximum effort and just increasing cohesiveness, respectively, on both ends of the court. So obviously, we will break down these contests as they happen. So on Tuesday's episode of the show, we're going to talk about the game against Arkansas, so on and so forth. So we will now transition over into the football recruiting side of things, where multiple Cardinals commitments made their way to campus to watch the team beat NC State. I'll tell you why that's very significant here in just a second after we talk about our friends over at Simply Safe. If you thought about securing your home with home security, look, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On Louisville listeners can order the #1 rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. I have installed it in my home, and it has been a game changer. It's the best home security system of 2022, winning 3 years in a row by the U.S. News and World Report. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get priority police response. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, stay in complete control of your system anytime. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system I recommend. Get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege. This is their biggest discount of the year. Excuse me. So don't wait. That's simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege. There's no place, there's no safe like Simply Safe. Hey, Cardinal fans, thanks again for making Locked On Louisville your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Transitioning over into football recruiting, the Cardinals still recruiting at a very high level. The 2023 class, 15 commits, a part of Flyville 23, and the Cardinals still have a top 20 class that shows you just how well Scott Satterfield and company are recruiting. But with that being said, we are just under a month away from early signing day, and the nerves start to kick in. And the sprint towards that early finish line starts to become really real. Really real. There you go, Dalton. But it's going to be a point of emphasis more so on this year than in years past to hold off some of those higher rated, more prolific programs when it comes to trying to get some of those prospects to flip. A couple of those prospects that are in Louisville's class right now, Rueben Owens, DeAndre Moore, so on and so forth, have been the talk of recruiting for certain fan bases whose program are trying to flip. Rueben Owens, there's been talk of Ohio State, who I believe just lost a running back commitment, are trying to replace it with Rueben Owens. DeAndre Moore is the most notable of the possible flips because he has been on visits to Texas, to Georgia, definitely enjoying the process. I know that there are those within Louisville's camp that still feel good about his commitment, but still, stranger things have happened. So you have to, really, really zone in here. So it's very significant that 6 of the current 15 Louisville commitments made their way onto campus to visit for the Louisville Cardinals to defeat the 24th-ranked NC State Wolfpack on Saturday. Those 6, Rueben Owens, Stanquan Clark, DeAndre Moore, Luke Burgess, Jayden Davis, and Rayquan Adkins. There would have been more, including Pierce Clarkson and Aaron Williams, and along with others, but I have heard that there was some complications with travel, some flights booking up pretty quickly when it comes to the California recruits. So Clarkson and Williams were not able to make the visit. But regardless, a handful of guys were. And Rueben Owens, Stanquan Clark, DeAndre Moore making it to campus That's big time. 3 of the biggest possible flip candidates. I'm not saying that they are probable to flip, but when you look at the 15 that Louisville currently has committed for the 2023 class, you would probably go as far as saying that the 3 that you may feel are the most likely, if at all, would be Owens, Clark, and Moore. So getting those 3 on campus this close to signing day is huge. Continuing to build up that recruiting momentum. Not only that, but also getting a victory against a top 25 team is big time. Now, granted, there's some, I think you would probably say there's some portions of the nation that don't think NC State should be ranked now that Devin Leary is injured now for the season. And you can make that case for sure with how bad NC State's offense is. But regardless, I think that it's huge to get 3 of the big-time recruits on campus, but also 6 in total, because you're less than a month toward early signing day. This is the final leg of the race, assuming that those prospects don't wait until February to sign. I know that a majority of these guys are trying to sign early and be on campus for the spring semester in January, which is huge news for Louisville. But Luke Burgess, Jayden Davis, Rayquan Adkins, the other 3 that were able to make it to campus. It's big anytime you can get commits onto campus. I know that those 3 are some of the ones that are talked about the least when you talk about this class, but make no mistake about it, they're 3 big-time recruits that Louisville needs to hold on to in this class, so that's big time. But when it comes to Owens, Clark, and Moore, what better way to have Rueben Owens on campus than rushing for almost 200 yards against a defense that coming into this game didn't really allow teams to rush for over 100? A nice showing to possibly show what Rueben Owens could be a part of, but this is huge to be able to fend off a program like Ohio State, because look, Ohio State is Ohio State. It wouldn't be the first time that the Buckeyes have taken a recruit from Louisville, and it probably certainly won't be the last, but this is a huge commitment because Rueben Owens, I'll be honest, it may be sounding a little biased, but outside of maybe Derrick Henry, Noel Devine, Leonard Fournette, Rueben Owens has some of the most impressive film for any running back that I have seen at the high school level. Granted, I'm only 24 years old, but I've been following recruiting for a decent amount. So I think that this is a huge running back prospect. Yes, he's ranked as a 5-star, but he is the number 1 running back in the country. Stanquan Clark, maybe a little bit less of a flip candidate than Rueben Owens and DeAndre Moore, but nothing is set in stone until a signature is put on the national letter of intent. He does have a teammate committed with him in Kataris Hicks, and also Ruben Bain, top 100 prospect for Miami Central, is visiting the Cardinals officially December 9th that weekend. But Miami is trying to get Stanquan Clark to stay home, so being able to get him back on campus, a big-time linebacker commitment. There's a lot of possible playing time for him next season, so that is definitely a huge opportunity to get him onto campus this past weekend and watch this Louisville defense continue to put on display the solid pass rush, holding a top 25 offense. Yes, they've been struggling, but under 2 touchdowns was big for having Stanquan Clark on campus. And then DeAndre Moore is probably the one that Louisville fans look at and be like, thank goodness we got him on campus, because he's taken official visits to Texas, to Georgia, 2 very prolific programs, one coming off of a national championship season, probably about to be in the playoff once again. So it's going to be tough to hold off Kirby Smart and Steve Sarkisian. So being able to get him on campus, a top 75 pass catcher in the nation, this is a huge trend, getting these commitments on campus, because as much as you feel like their commitments may be solid, you just never know in recruiting. Stranger things have happened, and getting recruits on campus like this late in the game definitely can do wonders for keeping a guy committed and eventually getting those respective players to sign. So unfortunately, not able to get all of the guys a part of Louisville 23 on campus, but getting 6 on campus is huge. So We'll continue to talk about football recruiting as we near signing day. But to finish out the show, we're going to talk about the volleyball team as the 4th-ranked Cardinals swept the Pittsburgh Panthers on Senior Day. A huge and dominant performance from Dani Busboom Kelly's team. We'll talk about that here in just a second after we talk about our friends over at Nissan. Our partners at Nissan have worked with us to create a new segment across the Locked On College Network titled Thrilling Moments, where we highlight the most exciting plays from the Louisville Cardinals weekend matchups or throughout the history of our alma mater. This week's thrilling moment from the Louisville Cardinals victory over the 24th-ranked NC State Wolfpack is Jawar Jordan's 98-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, a huge momentum-shifting play, and a much-needed special teams standout performance. This segment has been inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in the all-new Frontier Armada or Pathfinder today, available now at nissanusa.com. Moving right on along into the final segment of the show, Senior Day at L&N Federal Credit Union Arena on Friday evening was an opportunity for the Louisville Cardinals to avenge a loss to the Pittsburgh Panthers that they suffered earlier on in the season, and the Cardinals did so in dominating fashion, sweeping the Panthers in 3 sets on Friday afternoon, or Friday evening, I should say, 25-15, 25-21, and 25-18. The Cardinals, 4th-ranked, defeated the 7th-ranked Panthers and now control their destiny in the ACC. Reminder, there is no conference tournament in ACC volleyball, so the outright winner of the regular season would go on to win the conference. Now moving to 25-2, 16-1 in conference play. All Louisville needs to do moving forward is defeat Notre Dame on Wednesday, and they win the ACC. Or if Pittsburgh loses their next 2 matchups, which I don't necessarily think they will, but one of those is against Georgia Tech. So be sure to focus on that moving forward. I'm going to look that up because I should have already had this prepared. But I do want to take a look at what Pittsburgh has done, and they take on Georgia Tech on Wednesday, and they will play Boston College on Saturday. So that just goes to show, I think, that Louisville able to at least clinch a share of the ACC title. Forgive me, I don't know if it's outright or if it's a share, but regardless, they can win the ACC. And not only that, but secure a top 4 regional seed, which would probably allow them to host all the way through regionals up until the Final 4. So a solid match for Louisville, a huge result. The Cardinals were absolutely dominant in all aspects of the game. Granted, they recorded 10 more kills than Pittsburgh while swinging, I believe, at a 309 clip, which is a solid hitting percentage, holding Pittsburgh to a .088 percentage when it comes to hitting, which is absolutely incredible. It just absolutely highlights the dominance that the Louisville defense put on full display. 12 total blocks throughout the match. Amaya Tillman on Senior Day had 6. PK Kong also had 6. Iko Jones with 4. Raquel Latharo in her final game at home, 32 assists. Elena Scott had 13 digs. Claire Chaussee, what a season she's had, led the match with 13 kills. Nina Mbonu had 9. Iko Jones with 8. If I'm saying Nina's last name wrong, I do apologize. Please forgive me for my ignorance. But regardless, a huge match for the senior class. And hats off to the 2022 seniors that have been instrumental in helping the Louisville volleyball program continue this era of absolute greatness under Dani Busboom Kelly. Yet another fantastic regular season that they're looking to cap off with a solid victory over Notre Dame to conclude the season. But just overall, Louisville from start to finish, we saw last weekend how they put that resilience on full display, coming back down 2-0 to reverse sweep Georgia Tech on the road down in Atlanta in O'Keefe Gymnasium on Friday evening. A week later, they flip the script. They show how absolutely dominant they could be. And don't get me wrong, it was a nice senior day victory, but it was against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is the 7th ranked team in the country. They're very, very solid. The ACC obviously has that three-headed monster. 3-1 against, I'm sorry, 2-1 against, 3-1. Dalton, you had it right the first time. 3-1 against Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh this season, which is very, very solid. So nice to see Louisville just overall play very solid all throughout that match, even with Anna DeBeer still working her way back from injury. So you saw Louisville able to put together that solid upper performance, beat Georgia Tech, also beat Pittsburgh with Anna DeBeer not doing much. So we'll see how the rest of this regular season and going into the tournament fares with her continuing to get closer and closer to full health. Hopefully she's able to get back to that full health. But overall, a solid weekend for Louisville sports. Outside of a Louisville basketball loss to, Louisville women's basketball loss to Gonzaga. Admittedly, this is being recorded before the matchup against Texas, so I won't have any updates on that, but we will discuss that on in a later episode during the week. But a solid opportunity here to get some momentum, even though you may not see that in the win column, but trying to get better each and every game for the men's basketball team in the Maui Invitational. Football recruiting continuing to do unprecedented things and looking towards the best recruiting class in school history. And then obviously the women's volleyball looking to end the regular season out strong. A huge 3-0 sweep over the 7th-ranked Pittsburgh Panthers on Friday. So a little bit of a program update. I will be out of town Wednesday evening, so there will be no recorded episodes after Tuesday evening. Sorry, mixed my days up. So there will be 2 episodes Monday, 2 episodes on Tuesday, and probably 1 episode on Wednesday. So you'll have some Kentucky preview. We'll break down some of the basketball action from this week, so on and so forth. But some of the later contests on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday won't be talked about until next week. So just keep that in mind. But everyone have a great day. We'll see you back here real soon. Go Cards.